Let, let me introduce co-organizers Matt Blaze and Kat.
Is David here? David.
And David. We have
David.
David and Brian are back there, who are our board members, waving hands. This year we have an exciting program. We have a 2-day speaker track. We have a vendor, Votec, who are doing a check-in kiosks. They will introduce their stuff at 11:15 as an introductory talk. At noon, a little bit after noon, we have an unboxing of Dominion ballot marking device, which have been in the heart of a lot of controversies. And tomorrow we will have a talk based on the controversy of the security report recently unsealed by federal judge and the countering paper by Maitre. So a lot of attention there. Matt, you had a few slides.
Pat, why don't you?
Hi, everybody. My name is Kat. I am the co-organizer of the Voting Village. I wanted to thank you all so much for being here. Thank you. As Harri said, woo! Give it up for Kat. It's also my birthday tomorrow, just so everybody knows. They're going to kill me for saying that. So I'm really excited to be here. It's quadrupled in size from last year, so we're really, really proud of what we've accomplished. We have a number of incredible panels, speakers. We have workshops. We have an incredible voting systems manufacturer that's here that Harri said. We've put a lot of work into it. This year we have countless volunteers. We have so many people that stepped up and so many people that care about democracy and that care about making it safer and care about preserving election integrity. And it's amazing how many, true patriots are in this room that want to make a difference. And it's an honor to be a part of this. And I feel blessed to be amongst such incredibly brilliant minds. So thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity. And I really hope that you all enjoy or at least learn something or question something while you're here at the Village this year.
Thanks, Kat. So I'm Matt Blaze. I'm one of the co-founders of the Village, along with Harri. So the Voting Village has evolved. We got our start after the Digital Millennium Copyright Act had an exemption passed that allowed for good faith security research that would otherwise have been illegal, allowing us to reverse engineer and take apart and find security vulnerabilities in, among other things, voting equipment. So we started out by buying as many surplus voting machines as we could find, putting them in a room and letting the DEF CON community loose on them. And we are continuing to do that. As you can see, we've got voting machines all over the room. Feel free to break them. Just do it in interesting ways and tell us about it. And try to, more importantly, try to understand how they work. We have become kind of the preeminent event for helping technical experts learn about the problems and solutions in elections and how to have high integrity elections and how to separate BS from legitimate concerns. And I have a couple of slides that I want to put up just to kind of give a sense of how this world is, what the problems in this world are. There are two truths in voting, and they're both true. And they're unsatisfying by themselves. The first is that there are, in fact, as you will see here, genuine, serious vulnerabilities in parts of US election infrastructure that, under some circumstances, if they're exploited, could alter election outcomes or could be used to alter election outcomes. That's irrefutably possible in some circumstances. But at the same time, there's no credible evidence, and when I say no, I really mean zero credible evidence that any US election has ever had its outcome altered by the exploitation of technical vulnerabilities. So how do we square those two things? Now, it's certainly logically possible for both of them to be true, but which one you want to emphasize tends to depend on how happy you are with the results of some election. And we're here to kind of acknowledge both of these realities, and help equip you to sort through them when someone says, hey, there's this vulnerability, the election was rigged, to see if that's actually a credible statement or not. And in fact, there are two different problems here. One is making election technology and protocols and the systems around them more trustworthy. And that's actually what we as technologists tend to focus on. There are actually a lot of really interesting problems here. And we've actually made significant progress on them over the last decade. It's really amazing how much progress we've made on this. But there's a second problem, which is increasing public confidence in election outcomes to go along with the improvements that have been made in how trustworthy they are. And sometimes these two are at odds, because in order to make progress on the technology, we have to expose the problems. So putting that into context is one of our big problems here. And you might recall that some of the things from the voting village were pointed to by people who doubted the outcome of both the 2016 and 2020 elections. So, in fact, the stakes are kind of high. This was people who didn't believe in election outcomes held a little riot in Washington a couple of years ago, and people died. And our democracy could have actually potentially fallen as a result of this. So what does this look like? Well, here's the first problem. Technology has become, and automation has become absolutely essential to the conduct of elections in most of the US. You can't hold an election without computers. And as we all know, computers, and particularly large-scale software-based systems, are inherently unreliable and untrustworthy. So one question is, how do we manage the fact that there may be flaws in the technology that we use to hold elections, and some of those flaws, if the system isn't designed well, could end up being fatal to our ability to know who won. So one of the things that's important is to find ways to deal with the fact that we're trying to build a highly trustworthy system from inherently untrustworthy components. And sometimes that's possible and sometimes that's not, depending on how the system is designed. Now, over my career in voting, there have been two approaches to trying to improve voting technology. One is to try to eliminate all the defects in the underlying technology. And that's actually what we were doing up until about 10 years ago. We were looking at systems, examining them, and try to find and fix all the bugs. That didn't actually work all that well. We found and fixed lots of bugs, but we never know when we found the last one. That approach was the best we had, even though it was inherently kind of doomed to fail. But over the last 10 years, we've evolved a different approach, which is to embrace the fact that the technology is going to be flawed and try to find ways to use it that tolerate inevitable flaws. And there were two big breakthroughs about a decade ago that let us do this. The first was Ron Rivest, who came up with a set of requirements called software independence. And then there was Philip Stark, a statistician at Berkeley, who's a co-board member of the Voting Village, who came up with a technique for doing this with certain types of voting equipment called risk-limiting audits. And we'll actually be having a talk about how to do a risk-limiting audit and a demo of risk-limiting audits throughout our program. Okay, so some voting tech can't be built in reliable ways. In particular, DRE touchscreen voting machines can't be used in a way where we can audit them. Software flaws can be fatal there. But other voting technology, particularly that uses paper ballots, actually we know how to do that. And one of the things we're hoping is that we're going to equip you to work with local election officials to implement some of these secure auditing techniques in your local communities, because this has to be done on kind of a county by county, state by state basis. So there's enough work to do for everyone in this room, and I'm hoping that all of you will spend the whole conference here learning about voting equipment and pretend that there's nothing else going on. There's nothing else interesting going on here at DEF CON. There's just plenty to do, and we really need people to go back home and understand this, explain it to your local community, work with your local election officials, become a poll worker. That's a great way to get a sort of introduction to the right people, learn how these systems work on the ground, and help contribute. You can have a huge, huge impact. All right, so thanks very much. So in about 5 minutes or so, we're going to start our first panel. We'll take a little break to get everybody together. Anyone who's on the first panel who doesn't have a microphone, please go to the back of the room and see Yuta. Thanks very much. Let me turn this back over to Harri.
Thank you, Matt. I want to remind and underline our mission in Voting Village is educational. All voting machines can be hacked. That's not news at all. We are educating how the vulnerabilities work, how you can exploit, how the machinery works. And if you accidentally discover something new, we have scribes who are documenting down your findings. So if you see something, say something. With that being said, the volunteers are here to educate, help. We are happy to answer any questions, and on we go.
Right. Oh, and you can identify the volunteers. We have these awesomely cool shirts designed by Kat, which have the DEF CON logo and an I voted sticker. You can't get these. You can only get them by being a volunteer. And if we have extras, we'll be selling them later. So thanks very much. We have about 5 minutes before our first panel, so stick around.